Alright guys, today we're going to go over section 2.1 about relations and functions. A relation is simply a set of ordered pairs. Okay, and remember, ordered pairs are always x, comma, y. Your x is on the horizontal axis, your y is on the vertical axis. And some new terminology we need to start looking at using this year. You know, yes, your ordered pair is x, y, but it is also input, comma, output. So your x's are your input values and your y's are the output values. Right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to look at a relation 4 different ways, the exact same relation. So here we're given a list of ordered pairs. I now need to turn that list of ordered pairs into a mapping. So all I'm going to do for this is draw arrows from this number bubble to this one. These are my x values. If you'll notice, my x values are -3, 3, 4, and then I have another 4, but I don't have to list it again. My y values are 4, -1, there's another -1, don't have to list it again, and a 3. So now all I'm going to do is draw arrows from the x values to the y values, otherwise known as inputs and outputs. So -3, 4, I go from this x, when I plug that in, this is the value I get out. And then I have +3, -1, +4, -1, and +4, +3. Okay, this mapping represents these ordered pairs. It's just another representation. Okay, the most familiar you might be with inputs and outputs are when you had to make a table of values. Remember, you would pick numbers to plug in for x, and then the answer you got out is what your y value was. So we're going to plug in these values and get these values out of a function. So when I plug in -3, I get 4. Plug in 3, I get -1. When I plug in 4, I get -1. And plug in +4, I get 3. Alright, and guys, if I'm going too quickly in these videos, you can always hit pause or you can rewind and watch the part you missed if you need to. These blank notes are available in Canvas if you would like to print them. It'll make keeping up a little bit easier. The fourth way to represent these same ordered pairs is by putting them on a graph. Remember, your x values are horizontal, your y values are vertical. So -3, 4, I'm going to go left 3 and up 4. Then I have 3, 1, so right 3, up 1. 4, oh, let's try that one again. That was not a +1, that's a -1, which means my point's at the wrong place. Let's fix it. Okay, so over 3, down 1 because it's a -1. 4, -1, I'm going to go right 4, down 1. And then 4, 3, I go right 4 and up 3. I don't have to connect those. All I have to do is plot the points. A relation does not necessarily graph a line or anything else. It's just a bunch of points scattered on a graph. Okay. So once again, this is 4 different representations of the exact same, not function, that's a relation. We're going to talk about a function here in just a minute. All right, next. we need to talk about domain and range. This should be reviewed, shouldn't be anything new, but your domain, that the way you've always talked about it before, those are just your X values. Okay, to use our new terminology, that's the set of inputs. And your range, those are your Y values. Or you could say it's the set of outputs. So when I'm looking at this relation here, they've just listed a whole bunch of ordered pairs, and notice they've got them in these wavy brackets. That's just so that they can put them all together. So just a notation. So if I'm going to write down the domain for this, I'm going to use those same wavy brackets, and then I'm going to just list all of the X values. So my X values, -3, 0, 2, 9, and 23. My range, those are all of the Y values or the outputs. So let's go through step by step and list those. 14, 7, 0, -18, and 99. Okay, sometimes your textbook will list those in numerical order, but it's not necessary. All of my X values were different. All of my Y values were different. Occasionally, those will repeat. If you have one that repeats, you only have to list it once. Okay, so to talk about that, let's flip back to this page here. Okay, if we come back here and I asked you to list the domain, well, your domain would be -3, 3, and 4. You've got it twice, but you only have to write it once. Your range, I have for my Y values a 4, -1, another -1, which I'm not listing again, and a 3. Okay.